to another episode of the Chicago Blackhawks Hockey Central podcast. I am Joe Vitali, and that is Skoks. Lots to get to today. Erik Karlsson finally gets traded. San Jose kind of got the short end of the stick, but we'll go over that. Oliver Moore goes sicko mode. Frank Nazar, it was his chance. 5-point night, 4 goals in a game. Now Oliver Moore, it's his turn. And then there was some other signings that we need to get you caught up on as well. So now we're going to start with the big fish, the Erik Karlsson trade. So 3-team deal between the Montreal Canadiens, the Pittsburgh Penguins, and the San Jose Sharks. So the Montreal Canadiens acquire from Pittsburgh, Jeff Petrie, 25% salary retained, Casey DeSmith, Nathan Legare, and a 2025 second-round pick. Now, the Pittsburgh Penguins acquire from San Jose, Erik Karlsson, 13% salary retention, Dylan Hemeliuk. I butchered that, and that's okay. 2026 third-round pick, and then from Montreal they get Rem Pitlick, and who seems to be always involved in trades.
Yeah, I'm always hearing his name.
Yeah, right.
Everywhere.
He went to. I'm trying to remember where the Montreal got him from, but maybe like Calgary or something. But
yeah, might have been the Islanders. It's just he's everywhere.
Hard to keep track of such a journeyman.
Pitlick.
Yeah. Of course, his brothers, Rhett, younger, he's in the East Coast League, and then Tyler. So a hockey family. And then finally, San Jose, last but not least, they get from Montreal Mike Hoffman, and then they get from Pittsburgh Mikael Granlund and Blackhawks legend Jan Rutta, and then a 2024 top 10 protected first-round pick from Pittsburgh. So a lot to digest there. If I'm doing quick maths right here, we're looking at 12 pieces moved.
Yeah, that's a big move, right? And I think that's the one that everyone's waiting for this offseason is where's EK going? Erik Karlsson. And I believe he did win the just blinking on me right now. What's the trophy?
Norris.
The Norris.
He had over 100 points, which for a defenseman,
it's unbelievable.
It's really that doesn't happen a lot.
And especially on the San Jose team that they had, right? Just brutal, right? With no direction, and especially making this move, they are definitely picking a direction here, and they do get interesting pieces coming back their way.
Yeah, I think San Jose got borderline fleeced here. To be honest. And the Penguins got out from Jeff Petrie, Casey DeSmith, Mikael Granlund, and Jan Rutta. Jan Rutta and Mikael Granlund, Granlund is he's making too much money. He's 2 years at $5 million. He's not that good. He's not $5 million good, I'll say that.
No.
And, Jan Rutta, you're less than $3 million, for a bottom pairing guy is a little bit of an overpay. And, wasn't really working out in Pittsburgh for whatever reason. Kind of a Band-Aid, getting hurt a lot, unfortunate, but he wasn't working out there, and Kyle Dubas got rid of him. And then Jeff Petrie, Montreal reacquires him. Not entirely sure for what. If it wasn't working out before, I don't know why all of a sudden it would start working out. And then they got a backup goaltender in Casey DeSmith, who's That's what he is, a backup goaltender. So
Hmm.
it'll be Samuel Montembeault and Casey DeSmith, I guess, for the
I
Montreal Canadiens next year.
I believe Jake Allen's still there. Maybe he
Oh, I
might
think you're
be.
right.
Yeah, but at this point, he's pretty much a statue, right? Just super veteran, obviously.
Yeah.
He's done it all, played every game possible, multiple teams, but it's going to be interesting with their goalie situation because,
Yeah, so he is
yeah,
signed 2 more years, $3.85 million, but if I
wow,
remember last year, they were, like him and Mutombo were, like, trading off,
yeah,
like, long injuries.
hmm,
Like, Jake Allen, he'd get hurt for 2 weeks, and then Mutombo would be there, and then they would bring up, that one guy from, St. John's,
hmm, yeah.
I'm
There was
blanking
one
on his
more.
name. His dad was like a world famous, one of the best goalies of all time.
Hmm.
Um,
Right.
he's not there anymore, but so it was just their goaltending depth. They needed to do a little bit better of a job.
Hmm.
So rotating three goalies is definitely tough.
Hmm.
Um, I've heard like in practice, they don't necessarily want to wear out starting goalies, but they
Right.
want to be shooting on NHL talent.
Yeah.
So like because then the guys are going to get soft,
Hmm.
the forwards and whatever. If you have like your goalie coach put on the pads, and just stand there. It's a dude, just put a shooter tutor at that point. Come on.
Right.
So you know, um, navigating that is going to be a little tough, but I'm sure they'll figure it out.
Yeah. Interesting nugget about DeSmith, right? Casey DeSmith. Yeah, like he's a quality three. Like ideally third in the rotation, but he could step in as a two. Um, I believe it was not last season, but the season before last season. The Penguins were in the first round versus the Rangers, and he was starting because Jari. He's obviously kind of injury riddled in
Yeah.
recent years here, right? Tristan Jari, good player, but Casey DeSmith stepped up, and I think he stole one or two games if they didn't get swept. I don't think they got swept,
No,
but
I don't think so. Yeah,
no,
I think DeSmith is good for like a couple of like really good games. I think
yeah,
his problem is just he's not consistent.
right, right, right.
But I do
Backup
think
role, right?
yeah, I do think he has flashes of brilliance for sure. It
Yeah, it's
just,
fun.
it'd be better for him to, keep that consistency. So,
Hmm.
maybe you can find that out in Montreal. He's going to
Right.
be with a bunch of young guys. Maybe he'll be a little bit rejuvenated. And
Hmm.
then maybe, Marty St. Louis can get something out of him that wasn't there before.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. And another interesting piece, going to the Sharks. We discussed off camera Mike Hoffman. You know, uh, Getting up in age, right? He's been a quality offensive player. Shooter, passer, but mainly scoring touch, right?
On
Just
the power play, special teams for sure.
yeah. Uh, you always see him doing something, right? Like he's consistent on that end, but on the other end, that's where the issues come in. But uh, everyone has a scouting report on him now, so it's interesting to see what's going to happen to him, Mike Hoffman.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting too. He started out in, I want to
Senators.
say, yeah, Senators, and
Hmm.
then all of a sudden he's been bouncing around. I think he was
Yeah.
in St. Louis
Hmm.
and then
Montreal.
Montreal,
Right.
and he's just bouncing, bouncing, bouncing. Obviously they still want his services
Hmm.
uh, in the NHL, and so Big Head Hockey on Twitter did some lines,
Mhm.
And so I'm gonna read them off for you. So it's gonna
Yeah.
be Hoffman, Hurdle, Zetterland, Barabanov, Couture, Duclair, Pedersen, Granlund, Zadina, which I totally forgot they picked up Philip Zadina off waivers.
Yeah.
Oscar Lindblom, Nico Sturm, and Kevin LeBanc. Kevin LeBanc, um, he like started his career out pretty good,
Yep.
and then San Jose was like cash strapped, and so they were like, "Yo, we can only give you like 1 year, $1 million, but we know you're worth more than that.
Mhm.
Just hang with us, and then we're gonna give you a nice contract." And they did, which is honorable and cool, but now all of a sudden his plays completely fell off. So uh,
Yeah.
seeing him on that fourth line there is a little disappointing. But
Mhm.
um, this is a wild uh,
Lineup.
line forward group.
Yeah. There's some youth there, right? On line one was who? Uh,
Hoffman, Hurdle, and Fabian Zetterland.
Zetterlund. Yeah, I believe he is very young still. Yeah, Zadina. It's more of like a not a project, but just taking a shot in the dark, right? Just picking him up, see if he could improve, right? Because with
Yeah,
Detroit, just didn't work out.
it's uh higher risk, but the
Mhm.
payoff could be there for sure. And with
Right.
Zadina,
Hmm.
um, in medium risk, high reward type business. So,
Hmm.
they're just paying him money. They didn't give up any assets for him, and I think he's only making like 1.6 or something.
Yeah,
So,
it's small amount. Yep.
yeah, and
For
then
him.
on the back end, it'd be Ferraro, Ruda, Vlasic, Benning, McDonald, Simek. And then
Wow.
their goalies are Kakinen and Blackwood, uh,
Jeez.
which I also forgot that Mackenzie Blackwood got traded over there.
Right. Uh, did you just say Vlasic?
Mark Edward.
He's still in the lineup.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
I think they're paying him like 6.5 million bucks for like 5 more years.
Yeah, man, that's rough. Like you wonder why a team like San Jose has always been in, like a tornado with no direction, right? And when you look at a contract like that, then that kind of makes sense. It's just been weird. It's a
Yeah,
weird one.
unfortunately, I think their problem was they just ran into the Hawks.
Could be right back in the day, man.
I think a lot of it is like, oh well, they ran into the Hawks.
Yeah,
And
a lot of teams messed up.
okay, 3 more years for Mark Edward Vlasic at
Wow.
$7 million.
Yeah, that's. I'm not
And
sure who made that deal, but I'm guessing he's not with the Sharks right now.
he was no, it was their old GM who
No.
had to step down due to health reasons.
Oh wow.
I don't remember what his name was. I think he
Yep.
played on the Blackhawks, defenseman. Um,
Really.
anyway, yeah, and he's looking to get back into the game because I guess his health issues have been resolved, which is also always great to hear.
Right.
You don't want to get shut down,
Hmm.
you want to go out on your own terms. But I mean, dude, Mark Edward Vlasic, cousin of Alex Vlasic, by the
Yep.
way, Chicago Blackhawks. Let's go Hawks.
Hmm. Will
Um,
Met's own.
yeah, Wilmet's own. And dude, Mark Edward Vlasic back in the day he was the shutdown of shutdowns. He was
Yeah.
the Sharks hammer time,
Hmm.
and the Nicholas Hjalmarsson. Man, I love Nicholas Hjalmarsson. I love the game he played, and
Yep.
love the memes he created. So,
Hmm.
absolute blockbuster trade. Really insane stuff. I think that's going to open up the floodgates now.
Oh yeah.
I think Erik Karlsson was the biggest fish. I think, and
Hmm.
I think Mike Greer would have liked to have sold off during the season.
Right.
Uh, Last trade deadline when EK's stock was the absolute highest.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so shoulda, woulda, coulda. He
Yeah.
got it done, and the Sharks are in full-fledged rebuild mode, and they're starting to climb,
Mm-hmm.
and but this is a pretty big dip. So
Yeah, definitely. Because they did trade Timo Meyer, and it's interesting how they still have Tomas Hertl, right? Because
yeah,
when I looked at that team, like last year and a few years before, it's always Timo Meyer and Tomas Hertl, which he's a very skilled player. You
oh
know,
yeah,
I'm not sure about his durability right now. Maybe they just couldn't move him. Not sure, but he's definitely a fun player.
yeah.
Tomas Hertl.
And
Yeah.
it's unfortunate that Mike Greer also kind of got fleeced in the Timo Meyer trade.
Yeah, that's a whole
He,
nother story with him.
yeah,
Yeah,
he doesn't really have much to show for Timo Meyer either. I mean,
right.
Zetterlund, good player, but I
Hmm.
mean, if you're on a contender, Zetterlund's your third line, fourth line. You
Yeah,
know,
we don't know yet.
um,
Yeah,
I think there was something there that had to do with like contracts and stuff, like
right.
that San Jose was looking to offload contracts, or
Hmm.
I'm not really sure. Not in that war room, so I couldn't tell you specifics. But
Hmm.
ah, San Jose kind of tough. But
Yeah, pretty rough.
some other signings. We
Yeah,
Tom Wilson, $6.5 million for 7 years. He's going to be a Washington Capital for life.
that's for life. Along with the grade eight, Alexander Ovechkin. I guess they just want to keep his buddy around, but hey, 7 years, 6.5. You're sitting pretty if you're Tommy Wilson here, but the Capitals 7 years from now, are they sitting pretty? Not sure about that.
No,
That's that might be the shocker of the offseason so far. Like just something that I mean that contract is I mean that's rough. That's rough.
yeah, I
I
mean,
don't know what you
especially
think,
the way
but
he plays. I mean,
yeah,
it's just there. It's and then he missed the vast majority of this past season
right,
with an
right, right.
injury, if I remember
Hmm.
correctly. So
Yeah, and it's not like he's a super, just super top six guy that contributes a lot on offense. Even on defense, he's not great anymore. Obviously, he's 30 years old right now, so this contract will be till he's 37. If he makes it uh, even to the back end of that contract, but I don't see
yeah,
that happening.
they might have to LTI retire him.
Yeah, he's definitely a potential one for that list.
Yeah,
Hmm. It's
and
rough.
then moving on, we
Yep,
got uh, Matt Dumba,
Matt Dumba.
which this is a little bit of a shocker. 1 year,
Hmm.
$3.9 million to the
Yeah.
Arizona Coyotes.
Hmm. 28
And
years old.
yeah, and I, you know, um, I just don't know. He's a good player, so
Yeah.
I'm not sure why it took this long.
Hmm.
And you know, does he put up a lot of points? No, not really. 14 points last year, 79 games, but he's a lot more than that. He's a hitter, but he doesn't put himself out of position to hit, and he hits you hard. And he's really good at like zone entry denial and stuff. Like he's a good defenseman.
Hmm.
So, with a team like Arizona that's not really ready to compete yet. I mean, you're probably talking 3 years, and they can contend,
Hmm.
but like, now you're gonna have to contend with the Hawks,
Hmm.
because in 3 years, I think they're ready to compete too.
Yeah. Arizona just, I mean, they're loading up this year, right? With Logan Cooley. Obviously, he signed his ELC. They brought in a few guys, Zucker, right? Another forward, and then Matt Dumba. You know, his best days are behind him, right? His best year was in 2017, 50 points. Hey, uh,
Wow.
14 goals, 36 assists, but he gives you a lot in the D zone, staying in front of the net, working the corners, right? But that has dipped down drastically, I would say. 22, 24, 21, 27. Last year, 14 points. Not great, man, but 28 years old. You know what? Possibly in a better system, maybe he will be a better contributor, right? With the Coyotes.
Well, especially with the offensive talent they have in like
Hmm.
Dempster, Cooley. Excuse
Right.
me. Um, they get like Kerfoot,
Hmm.
Zucker, what's his name?
Cooley,
Clayton Keller.
Clayton Color, right?
He popped off. He probably
Hmm.
had the quietest like 77 points, I want to say.
Yeah. Hmm.
So 86. Wow, my fault. This is the quietest 86 points I've ever seen on a player.
That's spectacular. That
And
is
then the
spectacular,
Blackhawks legend Nick Schmaltz is there.
right?
He can stay healthy.
Dishing it off, right?
I mean, he's a good player.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Not, he's not,
Hmm.
I don't even know who to compare him to. Maybe like a Patrick Sharp or something
Yeah.
like that.
Like a juiced up one, possibly.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
uh, I mean, it's watch out Arizona Coyotes, I guess.
Hmm.
That's just really, really interesting to me that
Yeah.
the moves they made. Uh,
Hmm.
you know, I and I just feel like Matt Dumba was, you know, good enough to be on a contender to sign with a
Right.
contender. But 4 million, $3.9 million, retain half of that, and maybe ship him off to a contender.
Yeah.
That works
That's right. That's what I'm thinking too. At the deadline, right?
for
He's
sure.
28, and he could still play on uh, whether he's a D4, line three, pairing three,
Yeah.
right? But he has experience. He has a playoff experience also.
th-
So,
he's a playoff guy. He's a guy you
right,
want in the playoffs. His style is
right.
what you need for
Hmm.
sure.
Super passionate player, very outspoken, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we both expect him to be shipped at the deadline here, and hey, go go get a run at the cup, Matt Dumba.
Yeah. And right now I think Edmonton, they
Hmm.
have like
Right.
$7.5 million to play with. I
Hmm.
mean, they still need Evan Bouchard under
Right.
contract, and he's going to command a bunch.
Hmm.
Um, I think they could probably get him on like a bridge deal for maybe like 4.5, say, or
Yeah.
maybe like a 5.75 just for like a couple years, 2, 3 years,
Right.
and then give him the big bucks after that when he's PP1 and top pairing with Nurse probably, and then you know he'll get his cookies probably 8.5, $9 million,
Hmm.
which good for him.
Right. Yeah. Edmonton. That's an interesting spot for potential right trade for Dumba. Possibly Buffalo. They have a little roster trickiness that they got to get through, but shouldn't be too bad. Detroit still has some space. I mean, these are teams that need to take a step, right? They
Right.
have they have to do something. They got to win some games. So hey, pick up a guy with experience, knows how to play the game. Matt Dumba,
Exactly.
pick him up.
Yeah, maybe even like a Florida Panthers. I think they've
Could
got a
be
lot of
right.
guys on the back end. I know a
Hmm.
couple are hurt right now.
Right.
Uh,
Ekblad
ec-
Montour.
yeah, exactly. And I don't
Hmm.
think they're going to be joining the team until about December, I want to say
Yeah.
either. So maybe, something like that, but
Hmm.
really just an interesting direction the Coyotes are going.
Yeah.
I think maybe they're trying to kind of distract from like their arena stuff and whatnot.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I don't know, man. I guess watch out for the Arizona Coyotes.
Right. There's also one last Flyer signing. Philadelphia Flyer signing. 24 years old, goalie Samuel Urson.
Yes.
One way and 1.4 mil. So
Oh, nice.
2 years, but I'm not familiar with his game. It's interesting. Goalie situation. Let's see here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, they had a Russian prospect
Hmm.
and like Festisov or something, and he had to go do mandatory military service in Russia. And
Wow.
so they borderline, like the KGB, like borderline kidnapped him
Hmm.
and then brought him back to Russia to do his service. And I think he did his service, and I think he's out playing in the KHL maybe. But I think there's just some crazy situation going on. And I think he was going to be getting games. Like I think he's like a legitimate prospect.
Hmm.
And this weird uh, thing happened where he got taken back to Russia, and
Wow.
so maybe Urson got in some games last year. I think their goaltending situation was a little tricky as well.
Hmm.
Carter Hart obviously
Right.
the starter, but I'm not really sure who their backup is, to be honest.
Hmm.
So
Uh, they did pick up Cal Pedersen.
oh,
I believe it was
right,
through trade. Right, trade.
yes.
Yeah, and they have 26-year-old Felix Sandstrom. Not sure,
Oh, right, I
but
remember he got in
yeah.
a couple games. Yeah, I don't really know much about him either.
Hmm. Right.
I think he was like kind of middle of the road,
Hmm.
bottom, probably like if I were to guess, like an 888 save percentage,
Wow.
probably like a 3.14 GAA, something in those lines where I think it was kind of
A
a
little
little
rough.
bit under status quo,
Right.
but uh yeah, that's I'm actually out here in Delaware. My cousin he baptized two of his kids. I was
Mhm.
talking with my other cousin, die-hard Flyers fan,
Wow.
and they're so stoked about Mitchkov.
Yeah.
They were really really disappointed in the direction that Chuck Fletcher took with the team.
Hmm.
So really stoked about the new management and the new direction of the team. Really stoked about Matvey Michkov. So
Hmm.
just a little fun little
Yeah.
East Coast Philly Flyers
Hmm.
scouting report.
Yeah. Who was the head coach again? Flyers.
The one that's now in Seattle, Dave Hackstall, or currently
Current.
current. I think
I'm
they.
completely blanking on it.
I am too.
Right. The guy from the Jackets and Rangers. Hard
Yeah,
nosed guy. No one likes him anymore.
Laviolette?
No.
No, he's on the Rangers.
Right. Right. Can't remember this second, but it's
Oh,
interesting to
John
have.
Tortorella. Come
Yeah,
on.
Tortorella.
I
Tortorella.
knew that.
Right.
Wow, that was bad. That was a brain fart.
Right. I mean, what the heck? I don't know.
Yeah, he's interesting.
Yeah.
I think if you like are passionate about the game and
Hmm.
about your role I
Right.
think you're going to be okay under him.
Mhm.
But I think if you show like any sort of like disregard or like, you're not having a good day, like
Mhm.
off day, I think he's gonna tear into you.
Yeah. Uh,
So this interesting situation.
Definitely. That pretty much wraps up the signings, right?
Yeah,
But wrapping up in the summer showcase for Team USA here, I believe they played their final game versus Finland.
Finland.
Right. Oliver Moore going off. Frank Nazar had his turn, but hey, Oliver Moore picking up the puck, center ice, taking it all the way down, breakaway, turning on the Jets, snipes it blocker side, right side, just a speedy guy. Makes the game 1-0. A minute 49 into the game. We love those early goals, man. Just scoring early.
Backbreakers.
Love them.
Yeah, so it'll suck all the energy out of the other team if you get pot one early.
Oh yeah. Um, so Oliver had 2 goals that game. Uh,
Nice.
Russian with Danny Nelson. We talked about him pre-draft. Pretty big kid. Yeah, so rushes in with Danny Nelson. Just pots it home, man. In front of the net. Uh, right place, right time. Just pots it in.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh man, I'm
pretty
excited
simple
for
stuff.
him.
Yeah.
I'm really excited. Because Frank Nazar, 20 years old.
Right.
So we're going to see him sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Probably see him in Michigan for one more year because he
Yep.
lost last year. But then I think he's coming to the Hawks, to be honest.
Really.
And then, Oliver Moore, I'm a little like in between here, but I think probably 2 years in Minnesota will do him really well.
Really.
But and then grab that associate's degree and then just come on over to the Chicago Blackhawks.
Hmm.
And then, so you're seeing, in 2 years, in 2 years, you're going to see Oliver Moore and Frank Nazar, and then you're going to have Bedard, and then you're going to probably get Del Mastro,
Yeah.
Allen, Korchinski.
Coach.
All those guys are going to be coming up, and this is going to be the new age Blackhawks. And
Right.
you're always going to need that veteran presence. Got
Hmm.
tons of high quality UFAs this next offseason.
Hmm.
Um, and, maybe you grab some of those guys and, like a Leon Draisaitl, wink, wink.
Yeah, that would be
Um,
interesting.
and,
Yeah.
you're going to have this great young new core for the Chicago Blackhawks. And I think they're going to be really, really competitive
Hmm.
sooner rather than later,
Right.
to be honest.
Uh, don't forget about Lucas Reichel now.
Of course. He's already
He'll
there.
right. He'll be a little more seasoned.
One full
When
year in the show.
right when the youngsters come up, he'll be 2 years, 2.5 years in already. Reminds me of like Seabrook and Keith, and then Tays and Kane come in. Just having a guy there already.
Yeah.
Um, Man, can't wait. Reichel, gonna be great. It's gonna
Yeah.
be great.
Man, and I think that's gonna do it, right, for the Chicago Blackhawks Hockey Central podcast. And, man, I just hope you guys had a great weekend. I'm gonna start a new week here tomorrow, Monday. And, man, it's, Erik Karlsson, that shoe dropping. It's big. I think there's gonna be a lot of movement now.
Mhm.
A lot of teams over the cap. He was probably the biggest piece. So look out for that. And have a great week. I'm Joe Vitali. That's Skokes. We'll see you later. Go Hawks.
Let's go Hawks.